Here in the panel we have Professor Mahmoud Emery Maqdam, Director of Iran Human Rights Organization based in Oslo, Professor Jaavid Rehman, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the Islamic Republic of Iran. We have also منیره شیرانی, Director of Balochistan Human Rights Group, تیمور الیاسی, Director of Association for Human Rights in Kurdistan, and شهید یزدانی, Director of Impact Iran. Each panelist will talk about his or her topic around 6 minutes approximately, and after that I'll take questions. I'm going to give the floor to Professor Emery Maqdam, and his topic is learning from the past.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the invitation.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the invitation. Good morning, everybody. This year we had the 40th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. So we have had the Islamic Republic in 40 years now, and the issue of the death penalty became a problem already from the very first days. The first executions took place just a few days after the Islamic Revolution. Generals from the time of Shah, they were tried by the newly established, what became later their revolutionary courts. Few hours without the presence of a lawyer, they were sentenced to death and they were executed few hours later. And since then, death penalty has become a normal part of the Iranians' lives. Thousands of people have been executed in the last 40 years. We don't have an exact number, but since 2008, Iran Human Rights have been publishing annual reports. The latest report you can find also outside the hall, you probably have seen it already. In the 4th decade of the Islamic Republic's life, around 6,000 people have been executed. 273 last year. So when we want to discuss the strategies to reduce the scope of the death penalty, there is a lot to talk about, because in Iran there are laws which permit death penalty. Iran is one of the countries with the highest number of charges which can be punishable by death penalty. And in addition, we have a practice which can be changed. So, on one way, in order to change, to reduce the scope, we have to change the law. On the other hand, actually, without changing the law, if the authorities follow their own constitution and their international obligations, we can get a reduction in the use of the death penalty. The lack of due process is a very important issue which leads to many death sentences. More than 2/3 of all people who have been sentenced to death in the last 10 years have been tried by the revolutionary courts behind the closed doors, very often without having the possibility to do a proper defense. But today I'm going to talk about the few occasions where actually we have managed to restrict the scope of the death penalty in Iran. In these 40 years, we have had only 2 issues where we actually have achieved a goal and we have achieved a restriction in the use of the death penalty. The first issue was stoning as a punishment. After President Khatami was elected in 1996-97 when he became president, Iran and the EU they started their relations, they upgraded their diplomatic relations, and at the same time some videos of the stoning was published, and it was very disturbing for Iran's European dialogue partners to have normal relations with a country which actually practices such a inhumane punishment method. So one of the conditions that the European Union put in front of Iran in order to upgrade their diplomatic and economical relations was to stop stoning. So the pressure was very high, international pressure. The Iranian authorities in 2002, they declared that they have they have signed a moratorium on on the use of stoning as a punishment, and they don't implement punishment verdicts anymore. Unfortunately, the stonings continued, but they were not announced by the authorities and by the media. Until some civil society groups inside Iran started fighting against stoning, starting documenting issues of stoning and showing the world that actually Iran is still implementing this punishment. There was a campaign called Stop Stoning Forever, and this, along with the international pressure, led to the stop of stoning punishment eventually in 2010. So it took around 8 years from the moment Iranian authorities say, we don't do stoning anymore, until it was stopped. And it was thanks to international pressure, but also thanks to what the civil society did, creating awareness about what is going on. And the next, so that was the first one. Stoning has stopped, it's still in the law, but they don't do it anymore because the political costs are too high. The second, perhaps the most significant change we have had in the last 40 years when it comes to reductions of scope of the death penalty is the legislation in the anti-narcotic law which was passed in 2017. And as a result of this legislation, fewer people are sentenced to death for drug offenses, and thousands of people who were already on the death row, their sentences have been commuted. So in 2007 we had 231 executions for drug offenses. In 2017, 231, 2018 there were 24. So it's a dramatic reduction. The numbers are still high, but we have never had such a reduction in the 40 years of the Islamic Republic, and especially because this reduction is due to a deliberate policy which has as an aim to reduce use of the death penalty. How did we reach this stage? I remember when we started in 2008, not only authorities, but the international community didn't pay much attention to executions, to death penalty for drug offenses. The civil society didn't pay much attention to it. The media were not interested. Most of the interest were on political prisoners sentenced to death or special cases like juveniles or women. So from that point, thanks to both the work that human rights organizations have done to give a face to those people who are sentenced to death for drug offenses, and the numbers which have been published showing that in some years there were 1 to 2 people executed for drug offenses every day. And internationally, the special rapporteur, the previous special rapporteur, Shahid, European Union, and UNODC, United Nations Office for Drug and Crimes, all this pressure together, internally and externally, made Iranian authorities to pass this law. Actually, they admit that the political cost of drug-related executions are too high. And I think this is the most important lesson that we learn, that even in a country like Iran, it is possible to reduce the scope of the death penalty. It is possible to make a positive change, but it demands sustained international pressure, European Union, countries with bilateral relations with Iran, they have to put it on the agenda, put conditions, and on the other hand, strengthening the civil society inside Iran, because without their job, without their documentation and creating awareness, Iranian authorities would say that, okay, we have stopped and the international community would be happy. So I think that's what I have to say. I don't know about my time. Okay, so I hope we can discuss it further. Thank you.
And the next speaker is Professor Javid Rehman. His title is The Book of the Mandate of Special Rapporteur with respect to the death penalty in Iran.
Thank you for the invitation to participate in this panel on the issue of death penalty in Iran. The use of death penalty is one of the defining features of human rights situation in Iran, and the work of the mandate reflects this through the information I received, the interviews that are conducted, the preparation of reports, and the issuance of statements and communications. Today, I would like to highlight three specific issues in regards to the use of death penalty in Iran. The first issue is the extensive use of death penalty for crimes not meeting the threshold of being the most serious crimes. The Human Rights Committee, in General Comment number 36 on the right to life, has stated that only intentional killing is considered the most serious crime. However, in Iran, we still see the death penalty applied for crimes that do not meet this definition. A recent concerning example of the application of the death penalty in non-most serious crimes cases is the establishment of special courts in August 2018 to try the so-called economic crimes. These economic crimes, which cover offences related to corruption, fraud and bribery, carry the death penalty. Cases tried under the special courts have already resulted in the execution of at least 3 Iranian businessmen. While this is a deep concern, the second issue I wish to raise is a positive development, that being the amendment to Iran's drug trafficking law implemented in November 2017, and our colleague here has already made reference to that. The amendment changed the punishment for certain drug offences retroactively from the death penalty to maximum term of 30 years imprisonment. It also increased the quantity of drugs required for a death sentence to be imposed when the death penalty is still applicable for drug offences. While it is still concerning that the death penalty can still be applied in other drug-related cases, these amendments, are already noted, have resulted in a reduction in the use of death penalty in Iran. Between January and October 2017, 437 people were reportedly executed. The number of executions decreased to 207 for the same period in 2018 after the amendment came into force. Finally, an area of focus that I have devoted a significant amount of time to as Special Rapporteur is the continuing execution of child offenders by the Iranian authorities. Despite numerous UN human rights mechanisms calling on Iran to stop sentencing children to death, Iran continues to violate its international human rights obligations under the ICCPR, that is the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Indeed, it is with deep regret that Iran is the country that executes child offenders far more than any other state. Information received indicates at least 61 child offenders were executed in Iran since 2008, with at least 6 being executed in 2018. The government in 2013 implemented Article 91 Amendment, which gives discretion to judges to exempt children from the death penalty when they do not know the nature of the crime or there is doubt as to their mental development. Nevertheless, credible information indicates that there are at least 85 child offenders on death row in Iran at present. I will encourage the government of Iran to continue to review existing policies with a view to prohibiting the execution of child offenders in line with its international obligations. Thank you.